My name is Mike Peeler. I'm the head of the program in estuarine ecology and human health at the Coastal Studies Institute. Recently, we've had some work underway that's been looking at some of the factors that affect our ability to restore anadromous fish populations here in North Carolina. And in particular, we are interested in river herring. And one of the factors that people are concerned about when they're dealing with river herring restoration is whether or not there's sufficient food. River herring are planktivorous. They eat zooplankton from the water. And there have been some thoughts in the past that in some places where people have tried to restore river herring, there haven't been sufficient zooplankton populations to support them. So part of our work in this study was looking at the zooplankton populations, trying to understand their seasonal variation, and then trying to quantify how much of a population is there and understand whether it is sufficient to support the river herring that are anticipated to be present if restoration is successful. And we're interested in how anadromous fish restoration and anadromous fish management might interact with other water quality management that's underway. River herring, as I said, eat things out of the water column called zooplankton, which are animals in the water column. Those zooplankton in turn eat phytoplankton, which are plants that live in the water column. Too much phytoplankton can lead to a problem called eutrophication. And if you have eutrophication, you have too much of a good thing. The primary producers, the phytoplankton, are producing more of their biomass than can be taken up by the zooplankton. So eutrophication is commonly combated with nutrient controls. So you could imagine in areas where you're trying to control nutrients, where you might have excess algal blooms, you would be reducing the phytoplankton population, the algae, and at the same time, if you were trying to restore anadromous fish, you could have anadromous fish like river herring eating the zooplankton, which would lead to more algae. This work was funded by the Fisheries Research Grant Program through the North Carolina Sea Grant. And this is a really neat program that pairs scientists or other people who are interested in gathering information about fisheries issues with fishermen. And we were very fortunate to work with the Byram brothers on this project and able to go out with them in their boats and benefit from their time on the water and experience on the water, and also get samples directly from their pound nets that they were working during the time of this project. This program does a fantastic job of creating a real collaboration between the fishermen and the scientists. And invariably then, the information that's gained and information that's passed on to the fishing community is not only more credible because the fishermen have been involved, but it often makes a lot more sense because it's based on the common sense knowledge that fishermen often bring to bear.
The most herring was caught here was caught in 1969. That was 19 million pounds. But it fluctuated. Some years you would have 10, 12 million pounds. Some years you'd have 8 million pounds, and some years it'd go back up to 16 million pounds. It fluctuated back through the years, but that really 1969 was the biggest year that anyone had ever seen. The herring fishery started dropping off the mid-80s, and it got down to a point where we were catching 4 or 5 million pounds a year.
River herring historically were a very important fish socially and economically. It was a staple of the food for many people in this area. So they relied very heavily on river herring, and that population has really declined dramatically and it now can't support the same kind of harvest that it used to. So many of the people in this part of North Carolina are very interested in having river herring populations rebound to the level that they once were. And one of the very simple questions is, do the river herring have enough food to eat? And so that's the question that we're trying to answer very basically.
Projects like these are why the Coastal Studies Institute was put here. We are really interested in working on the place where we all live, on issues that affect us all. The issue of river herring is not just a scientific issue, it's a cultural issue. These have been incredibly important fish through the history of this area. We were excited to be able to do this work and answer some specific questions about the potential feasibility of herring restoration, and also to look to the future and figure out whether other activities that we have going on trying to manage the coast can be compatible with anadromous fish restoration.